So excited for this conversation today. How are you doing today? Thanks for coming on in. We are going to be talking today about HSLDA Compassion Grant. So thanks for joining us. This is our 23rd Military Facebook Live, and my name is Natalie Mack, and I am the high school educational consultant, at least one of them. We have an incredible high school staff, as well as the military outreach coordinator here at HSLDA. I'm also a retired Navy chaplain's wife, and I homeschooled 5 of our own kids. 4 have graduated. They have gone on to college, graduate school. We still have an 11th grader at home. So joining me today for our discussion about compassion grants is Dianne Tavares, Director of HSLDA Compassion, and David Meece, HSLDA Compassion Grant Administrator for military families. So when you come in, please let us know where you are watching from, and we're going to get the conversation going. We're really happy that you're here. And so to all of my fellow military homeschooling parents joining us on Facebook, we hope you find these topics useful, and we're looking forward to the conversation today. So HSLDA's Compassion Grant Program has blessed and served so many military families and homeschooling groups. I first want to mention how honored I was to be able to interview Walt and Katie Cheshire for our special Veterans Day celebration. If you did not get to listen to that, please take some time and listen to it. It is on our YouTube, as well as I think we're going to link it in the chat. Diane and David and all of the Compassion staff have such a heart for service. Diane, please go ahead and share a bit about you, your family, the work that you do as Director of HSLDA Compassion.
Sure, Natalie. Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here with you today on this topic. I was actually homeschooled kindergarten through 12th grade here in Northern Virginia, where the HSLDA offices are. And our family were fortunate to be friends of Mike and Elizabeth Smith. Mike was HSLDA President Emeritus. And so his wife, Elizabeth, was a huge encouragement to my mom while she was homeschooling me and my brother. And you, of course, know my mom. She was a high school consultant here at HSLDA for a while. Last year.
Carol?
Yeah. So she's a huge inspiration to me, too, now that my husband and I are homeschooling our 3 kids, ages 8, 5, and 3. So I've been with HSLDA Compassion for a little over a decade now. And the work has definitely become more meaningful now that I am in the midst of my own homeschool journey with my children. So it's just a real joy to have my job be to encourage other homeschooling parents like this audience.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Diane. I really appreciate you being here. As you're coming in, let us know where you are joining us from. You can put it in the comments, and then we would love to hear from you. If you have anything in reference to compassion grants, any questions that we don't cover, if you want to share any personal experiences with compassion, with the compassion department, we would love to hear that. And we're going to go ahead and go to David, because you understand military life. Please share with our viewers more about you, your family, of course, your military service, and the work that you do as grant administrator for our families, for military families.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Diane, for bringing me on. Diane, I give her credit because she hired me. So, yes, as Natalie alluded, I spent 33 and a half years in the military. You know, when you're 17, you don't know what you don't know, and then next thing you know, it's over. And so
it's over, right?
It's over, and it went fast. But I enjoyed every minute of it, both enlisted and then I finished as a colonel. I've been with HSLDA since May of 2022, and it's been a joy to service families and give back. We're a lifelong homeschool family. My wife and I have 9 children, and it was because of the military and move that prompted us into homeschooling our first when she was in kindergarten. But it was under the condition, as my wife said, we'll do 1 year and then that's it. And that little kindergartner has now graduated from graduate school at Texas A&M.
Wow.
And then we have a list of other. We have 2 college graduates, and then our youngest is 7 and some in the middle. And I don't want to bore people with ages and names and all that. But you ever want to borrow a teenager, I think I've got one or two you can try
You
it
got
out
one
for
or
a
two.
while.
I hear you.
But it's been a joy. I really love servicing the grants that we get from military families, I guess, because I can speak the speak or read the lingo or look at an LES or something like that. I don't know if that means anything to those folks that are watching. But one of the greatest joys I had in my time in uniform, and then I'll wrap it up, was I was the chief of family programs. So I managed programs for not only airmen and family readiness, but soldier and family readiness as well. So I got to do a joint time doing both Army and Air, so I can speak on both sides. And I spent some time in the Army early in my career as well, so I think I maybe learned a thing or two. So other than that, it's been a joy, and I look forward to continue to help in any way I can.
Oh, that is so awesome. So you and I, both our families, we talked about how we lived on the same installation here at Fort Belvoir. And also you just mentioned about Army. I didn't know that about you. So both our families are a little green, right? We're a little green.
We are, yeah.
You turn blue and we turn blue too, but the different blue, right?
The navy blue.
Yeah, we turn navy blue. Exactly. So that's so awesome. So Diane, I know that our viewers want to know a little bit more about the program. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions when you're coming in, let us know where you're joining from and any questions. We're going to get to answer those towards the end. The program goal is to help families continue homeschooling amidst financial hardships. Am I on point with the goal?
Yes, you are on point. So we do not want finances to be the reason that any family stop homeschooling. And HSLDA has been committed to that for a long time. The Compassion Program has been around for over 20 years, and it has invested millions and millions of dollars into the homeschool community, directly into homeschooling families to enable them to do it. And these grants and the associated staff expenses, they're 100% donor funded, which I just love telling. It's incredible because it speaks to how devoted the homeschool community is to coming together to support each other. Right, so over 4,000 donors, families make these grants possible through their generosity because they believe in what homeschooling parents are doing and in the power of homeschooling to be a tool that makes it possible for kids to thrive in many environments, including kind of the unique setting that military families find themselves in.
That is so awesome. Yeah, we all look at it as if, we are all in one big family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we want all of us to survive, not only survive, we want all of us to thrive. And that's so awesome for over 20 years for HSLDA to be coming alongside families and making, that mission of making homeschooling possible. And it's really actually putting not just words out there, but you do action, right? You are making a difference in that. So that is actually
be that conduit between the donor families who care so much to give, and then the families that need it on the other side, and we're just that middleman. We're just the connector that makes that possible.
Yeah. So I just want to shout out, thank you, donors. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So if we're talking about military families, what intersection do these grants have with military families? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, so for example, last year in 2023, according to stats, we gave our main grant program, which is the curriculum grant program, we gave curriculum grants to 95 families with military associations. So that breaks down to 5 of them who are retired after 20 plus years of service, 28 families that had some level of disability due to service, 45 were veterans who served and then moved on, and then 2 families in the reserves and 15 on active duty. So those grants, those 95 grants in that year provided curricular help to 253 children in those families, and 82 of those children are being homeschooled with some sort of disability or special needs or something being accommodated. So that's kind of the intersection that we had just last year with military.
Wow. That is awesome. So just last year in 2023, we're talking about, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. So, David, how have you used your military experience in your grant administrator role? How has that intersected for you?
Oh, wow. I could do a laundry list, but I think that the biggest thing is looking behind the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, we do a lot of evaluation on the part of a grant administrator. We look at a lot of paperwork. We have to evaluate, you know, things at face value, but those don't always tell a story. And so one thing I try to do, not just with, you know, primarily with the military applications, but all of them. But when a military application does come in and I read through, look at the paperwork, I can explain, okay, this is what this means. This is what privatized housing means. This is how this impacts. And then start looking at all of the things that don't get displayed, like the delays in DFAS for payment on a PCS, and what that cost incurs to a family, and sometimes how long that happens, or the things that fall through the cracks because of a deployment or a training exercise. So trying to put that hat back on and remember what it was like, not only being a member, but having been in command, and then having to talk with families when there are issues, even personal issues at home that, you know, it's just a dynamic that seems to be unique, you know, especially as a nation, as we've come out of, you know, 20 plus years of continuous combat operations and things like that. There's a lot of stress. Not that there's not stress in the civilian world, there is, but it seems there's a uniqueness to it. So I try to apply all those skills and remember what it was like, and not forget, and then advocate and articulate the best that I can on what an application looks like and what it means.
Right, definitely. It's definitely a unique life, right? Being in the military, and although we get compensated for things, like you said, sometimes timeliness, sometimes there's some type of correction you need to make on the form to get the compensation or reimbursement. Moving and what we call PCSing, permanent change of station, right? And I always laugh, it's not permanent. You're going to probably move again. Right? So it's not permanent, but military, you have to laugh. So, but when you're moving, you can anticipate, right? And the military is really good about making sure that families anticipate all the costs. But invariably, there's a cost that we didn't account for. There is an expense somehow that we didn't necessarily account for, right? And so it's expensive moving. As a homeschool family, sometimes we end up having to get rid of curriculum because we have a weight allowance, right? And we may have to repurchase on the other end. So there's a lot of variables. So your military knowledge, not just the acronyms, right? Like LES.
We have way more acronyms now here in Compassion than we did before we hired Dave. That's for sure. He brought that with him.
Right. Dave brought that with him. It comes with his experience, right? But he is also not only bringing the acronyms, he is interpreting them for you. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. And, you know, something else that you were talking about, how the numbers telling a story and knowing the background, sometimes you just need to know what questions to ask. And I think that's been a huge asset to have him reviewing the applications from military families. I mean, as you guys know, and as we have been learning, you know, military is such a broad spectrum. And so just knowing what questions to ask to learn more information, it's really, I think it's really helped our military applicant families have an easier time getting through, because they don't get asked silly questions that we don't know the answers to. They get asked, if anything needs to be asked, it's going to be an intelligent question, and it's going to be one that they'll be able to reply to someone who can read between the lines for them. So we appreciate it.
Exactly. Which really speaks to HSLDA's just love for serving, and to have the knowledge and wisdom to hire Dave to be able to, you know, say, we're going to ask intelligent questions, right? We're going to ask questions that, you know, honor and understand your service and your life. And so that speaks love. That's a form of a love language. So I know from my end, I'm always thankful, right? When people ask me questions, and they come from a point of view where they understand a lot about who I am and my experience. So that's really important. So I want to let our viewers know when you come in, just let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, we'll get to those at the end. So homeschooling, like we've been talking, it often means one income, not as much anymore, but it's still, I think, primarily we're going to say a one income, right? And sometimes,
or at least one significant income.
One significant income, exactly, one significant income. So our expenses might exceed that income. So what educational expenses do the curriculum grants cover?
Well, so they're going to cover most things that are for what you would think of as your core academic subjects. So that's your curriculum and your materials for them. Think science, experiment materials, think of the school supplies that you need to be able to do those, tuition for your academic co-ops and classes. That includes online classes, dual enrollment. There's many different versions of classes now. It's an ever expanding landscape of homeschool curriculum options, so that's included. Academic testing and tutoring, and that can be standardized tests, that can be like end of the year assessment tests. It can also be if you need to get a child evaluated for special needs or disabilities, and you need that to be able to just know how better for yourself as a homeschooler to connect with your child, or in order to get access to other resources that require some kind of official documentation to get. So we help a lot with that. School-related technology, that's often a laptop or a screen of another kind that will allow these kids, especially middle school and high school kids. I mean, there's just no way to be doing the work you need to do without access to a working machine in a lot of those subjects. So that's in there. And then diagnostic testing, therapies, and specialized materials for children with special needs. So those are all included in there, and you can use the curriculum grants to reimburse yourself for expenses if you already bought those items, as long as the purchase was made within 6 months of when you get your grant check. So we kind of have like a year-long purchase window, and it can go back 6 months before your grant and forward 6 months after your grant. You kind of have that 12 months to spend the grant.
That's great. That's a generous window. So definitely. So thank you. I see we have some people coming in and joining us. Good. Welcome everyone. So David, how much are the grants? Because that's always the question. People say, "Oh, grants." So how much could we potentially? What are we talking about?
So when we evaluate it, we do it on a family size does play a role, but typically right now the average home with children, 2 homeschool children, is about $300. So we try to keep it reasonable, and it can fluctuate upwards, downwards, just as depending. And then sometimes the special circumstances, obviously, that's things that we take into consideration for future. But I think it's been a good baseline that we've set, because it helps us to maximize our reach of how many families that we can help. So I know the hearts and the minds of HSLDA and the people in every department and every seat there would love to give everything. Obviously, we know that's not always realistic, but know that when we give something, we give it with everything that we have.
Yes.
And in addition to that, I know we'll touch on this a little bit later, but just to pique interest in it, we also try to provide resources we know about where people can get discounted or free technology or other discounts and free resources, because there's a lot out there that families can take advantage of, both specific to the military, but also just out there for the general public. So we do try to help families stretch their dollars as much as we can.
I love that. Thank you. So who's eligible to apply, Diane?
Privately homeschooling families. So the families cannot be receiving state funds to homeschool, including any form of education savings accounts or ESAs. So anything, if a family is receiving money from their state for homeschool materials, then that family would not be eligible. And that's just because there's limited resources. And so we're gonna apply our resources to the families that don't have access to any resources for homeschooling through their state. The families do need to be able to demonstrate financial need And so Dave was talking a little bit about the documentation, and the application does ask for families to supply some financial documentation so that we can show that there is financial need there. And we try to take individual families' circumstances into account, but income's a factor. So we just try to weigh those things and see if we can establish that there really is financial need for that family. So, if someone's concerned that their income may be too high, I would say just be sure to have a complete listing of your family's expenses when those are asked for on the application, because that just helps us have a solid picture of the financial need that the family is experiencing. So
exactly. Because someone could potentially be looking at how much they actually make on paper, but then expense-wise, there's some legitimate expenses and some legitimate struggles, and maybe there's a lot of therapy that is needed and things like that could definitely be something that you all would look at and say, okay, we see the whole picture here. So
yeah, well, and moves are often covered by, moves for active duty military are often covered by the government, but we've had a lot of active duty families where there were a lot of expenses out of their own pocket related to that move. They had to go ahead of time, they had to pick the house, there was a lot that was involved, and none of that was covered. And so there can be a lot of expenses that are, family by family.
Right, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to go ahead and ask David, when can families apply, and about how long does the process take?
Well, currently we're in our open period for application. It opened on the 1st of January and it goes to the 28th of February, and we put those breaks in. The next open period will be from April 1st to June 30th. And those breaks really are to allow time to gather all the applications. We're not a huge team by any means, but we work hard, and so we try to keep to our timeline from about 2 to 4 months from the time the application is created and run through to have the check in the family's hands. It takes about an hour or two once you go online and fill out the application. And so let me go back. I missed an open period. There's also one September through the end of October. So my apologies for that oversight. But so 1 to 2 hours to fill out the application, and then at that point it's 2 to 4 months, and hopefully the paperwork is there. So I would encourage everyone, when you go online, make sure you don't skip over things. Look at little blue hyperlinks, PDF documents, because there's a wealth of resource information there to help navigate you through that process. And we're always a phone call away too to help walk someone through the application process if there are questions and things like that. So the cleaner the paperwork is, the faster things go.
Right. I think
well, Natalie, we're having this conversation actually at the perfect time, because with that April enrollment or application period around the corner, that really is a great time for families to look at applying, because you backdate when you want to buy your curriculum and then work your way back from there with how long it's going to take to review the application. April is a really good time to apply, to be sure that you can get some funding before you'd be needing your materials to start your school year.
That is perfect. And I really didn't know that when we scheduled this particular date to do this. So that is awesome.
You're brilliant, and you didn't know it. I love it.
I didn't even know it. So this is great. I don't want to forget to mention our experience with something called Meet the Moment Grant that existed and ended in 2022. But we did highlight it in the description when we were putting out the calendar event for this topic. And so it has been such a blessing to our homeschool support group here at Fort Belvoir. I'm president of Fort Belvoir Home Educators, and we have a large group. I think we have about 130 some families, right? And so on Mondays, we have co-op. So it's almost about 165-ish, right? Kids on Monday at co-op at our religious ed center. Thankful to the chaplains. I know they aren't probably able to watch this, but thank you, Fort Belvoir chaplains, Franklin, for letting us use the center. But what I wanted to say in reference to all of that is that this Meet the Moment grant allowed our community to establish a lending library. And so when we're talking about military families, right, and we're talking about curriculum grants, and sometimes we have to let go of things, right, because we're moving and we have that weight limitation. So we realize that that's a hardship in many cases. And you move to a new location and maybe you need a microscope. Maybe, you need some type of if you use IEW, that teaching guide is pretty costly. So we have that. We have books. We have all kinds of science equipment and everything. And so the Meet the Moment grant allowed us to be able to establish this lending library. And so we're thankful for one of our members who's on our board, Sabrina Riley, who was a librarian, who still is professionally a librarian, but obviously homeschooling now. And she was able to set up our whole checkout process, and everything is smooth for families to be able to borrow. And so that Meet the Moment grant, I wanted to, mention it here because we had mentioned it in the description, but HSLDA is no longer participating. But Diane, did you want to just let families know a little bit? You and I talked a bit. Just if they are interested, they can go ahead and reach out.
Yes. So those Meet the Moment grants were made possible by an organization called the VELA Education Fund, velaedfund.org, I believe, or I'm sure they'll drop a link in. And that is a great, they were great funding partners during COVID. We were able to give out 3 rounds of those Meet the Moment grants, $400,000 a piece to homeschool groups, because of course homeschooling was busting at the seams, right? And so it was a great way to be able to invest those resources in the homeschool community. VELA does still give out those grants. They manage them themselves. And so we're no longer in any kind of grant partnership relationship with them, but the grants are ongoing. And so we're always happy to steer organizations their direction. And so if you're part of a homeschool co-op or something on a military installation, and you want to you have an innovative idea, VELA is very, very focused on innovation. And so if you have an innovative idea, something you want to launch, something you want to start that would serve your homeschool community in a unique way, I definitely encourage you to check out their website. And then HSLDA continues to offer what we call annual group grants. And so that's every spring, every March, we let groups know that when they're in our system and they have a certain number of families in them that are HSLDA members, then they're eligible to apply for small grants, which can range anywhere from a few $100s to maybe upwards of $1,000 to $2,000, depending on the size of the group and things like that. So they're very modest, but those also can be used to support homeschooling groups in a whole variety of ways. So you can find out more information about that at hslda.org/compassion. You'll see there's a page there for annual group grants. So that's a great place to go if you're looking for information about those.
That's great. That's great. I really appreciate that. I have been working with Darren since we began the military outreach program here at HSLDA. And so I always mention something towards the end of our Facebook Lives in reference to if you are a leader of a military homeschool support group. But I'll go ahead and plug it in because it fits really well here.
Yeah.
If you're a leader of a group or co-op, we have a directory that features groups, but it's a voluntary directory. And when I say it like that, I mean that we just don't find, I know about Fort Belvoir, we're going to put you in the directory. I had to actually request for our group to be listed. So if you're a leader, I'm asking you to reach out. You can definitely reach out to me. My email will be at the end. But it's military@hslda.org. You can definitely reach out to group services because I'm just going to forward you to that department, to Darren Jones, our awesome attorney with groups. So definitely consider that, because like Diane was saying, then if your group is listed, right, and you have a certain number of members that are certain number of members in your group that are HSLDA members, then you need to go ahead and access the link that she mentioned to find out about what HSLDA offers for your group. So that's awesome. I love that. And so, yeah, it's being populated. Links are being put into the chat. So there are some resources that we want to talk about, right? There are some resources. You all have amassed lots of resources. You referenced it earlier that, and Dave also, as much as you want to be able to give as much as families need, you are thankful you can give very specifically to meet what needs you can, but you also have resources. And a lot of families are often saying, can you just point me into the right direction? Can you help me a little bit? Can you help me figure out where I should go next, who I should contact next? So can we talk a little bit about your resources, your resource page?
Absolutely. I'll just jump in and mention a general resources page we have for free and discounted curriculum and educational materials, and it's got listings on there for technology, for all kinds of school subjects, and even electives. And so families can get to that. hslda.org/compassion resources is a short link to get there. And so I encourage everyone to go check that out. And it's just up on the website all the time. We do try to keep it updated, so it's not full of a lot of dead links. I've been to some other resource pages where you're not sure when the last time was, and someone looked through those links. But we try to keep that one pretty up to date. And then also there's some other articles HSLDA has, but for our grant families, for the families who we vet and then we give grants to, there's, I think, almost 40, or maybe it's now over 40 homeschool curriculum vendors that actually offer special discounts to those families because they want to be able to support the homeschooling movement, but they don't have the bandwidth to do the vetting of the families themselves. And so when we're able to give those families a grant award letter, then they can show that letter to the vendor, and the vendor knows that they're good to go, that they've been checked out. And so there's a lot of great homeschool curriculum vendors who are really looking to support those families. And so there's discounts on there up to 30, 40, even 50% off curriculum. So those are just for the grant recipients, but the Compassion Resources page is for everybody.
That is great. That's just that helping hand that families need, especially military. I'm going to say especially military families, right? Because I'm going to be partial. I know, just families in general, right? And homeschooling families, we have committed to do what we feel called to do with our children, for our family. And sometimes it's just if we can feel like someone cares, right? And someone is reaching out with a hand to help. So that is awesome that you all facilitate that connection between you all and like curriculum vendors. So that's great. Now, another thing you often will say is you will tell people, speak with an educational consultant, right?
All the time.
I love my fellow consultants, so I'm going to shout them out here. But tell us some of what that's about. What has been your experience with that?
Oh, wow. Dave, you want to hit that one up with specific to the military side?
Well, I was actually, you spurred my thought here on some of the resources.
Okay.
And I know those that are on it, if you're active duty, or even if you're reserve component, be it National Guard or reserve, if you're in active duty but still serving, Military One Source. I maybe it's just the old part of me. I mean, that when I ran the program, we used to plug it a lot. But there's a wealth of resources on their website. If those that have access to it have been to it, you just go to militaryonesource.mil under the benefits page, and then pull up their MWR library, and it has its free resources available 24/7. Now, specifically to schooling, you get reading guides, there's homework helpers, there's tutoring services that you can find, all kinds of ebooks and things like that. So if you want to supplement anything through that benefit, just having been in the military, obviously you can go and check that website out as well. And the same thing applies for, you said, well, I'm not active duty. Well, if you are currently serving in the National Guard Reserve, there's a spot for you as well on Military One Source. You just go to the resources and then the military life guides, and then under National Guard Family Program. And then if you don't find what you need there, you can find a directory in your specific state to talk to your state family program director or your local whether it's an armory or if you're at an International Guard wing, your airman family readiness person, to get even further information that you may need. So it's out there. It takes a little bit of navigating, but it's there. And so, but yes, back to the question, which was consultants. Yeah, they play I mean, Natalie, you work in that that much closer than I do, but they are really someone calls in and I need help with something.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to triage that and send it over to a consultant, especially you think from someone that's either doing it for the first time or they're not first time and they get to that nebulous age of high school.
Yeah.
And you could probably speak volumes to this. What do I do now?
Yeah.
Whether it's lack of confidence or if it's just a lack of resources, because it does cost a little bit more, as we all have found out as we on this homeschool journey, that when they hit the high school age, it gets a little bit different. So
a little bit more costly, right?
Yeah, we'll have to outsource a little bit more, but that's okay. I mean, that's fine. So that's where the consultants come in and help you realize, no, you're on the right path, and it's okay to be nervous, and it's okay to feel scared or whatever. Now let's talk some of the nuts and bolts and give you some guidance on things to think about and point you in the right direction. So they earn their weight in gold. So I won't steal your thunder, Natalie, because you could probably speak greater than I can.
Well, we really think about it as kind of the two hands. You've got the right hand and the left hand serving our member families, because you know, a lot of families, you just need resources. You need funds to be able to purchase the things that you need to purchase or pay for the classes you need to pay for. But then sometimes you're not sure what those things are, and so that's where the consultants come along. And so it feels like it's between our two services, we kind of try to hit the whole needs of the homeschool family, come alongside them kind of in a holistic way. So we both have our separate roles to play as departments, but we do really try to work together. And certain families, you know, we get to communicate between departments about how best we can serve those families. We're always communicating about how we can be best supplying resources. I know I am always inspired when we hear some of the great ideas that the consultants have for how to turn life into homeschooling for free, right?
Yeah, right.
I always walk away from conversations with at least a few ideas of easy ways I can engage my kids. You know, my kids are a little bit younger, that I can engage them, you know, better on a topic, or without spending a lot of money, or without it taking a lot of time. So you guys you have great hacks. You can speak into a wide variety of family situations. So I definitely encourage any members watching, call the consultants and you know, just talk with them about what they might have. What they might have to say on subjects that are difficult for your kids, or ways to better inspire your kids. The consultant team's been great, and so we definitely try to get families in with both if we can.
And since we've been talking a little bit about the curriculum grants and the number that you in 2023 gave to families with children who had special needs, right? Then, you know, our special needs consultant, we have an incredible staff of special needs consultants. They are very much, I know you work with them quite a bit as well, just kind of helping navigate and helping families. So it's really great, the synergy between our department. I'm not speaking for Christy, our director, our awesome director, Christy Horner, but definitely we consider you all, you know, we're all in one family, and our goal is to come alongside our member families and support them. So that is great. We always like hearing that. So the other thing I would say is, as we're talking about these benefits, such as consulting, you need to be a member, right, of HSLDA to reach us, right? So, though sometimes families, right, since we're talking about compassion and assisting families financially, sometimes that membership cost, even with the discount, can be a little bit of a challenge. So can we talk a little bit about the membership financial aid piece?
Yes, that is a less well-known program that Compassion handles, and that is such a joy. So membership financial aid is the money that we use, again, fully donor supported, to help families become members who can't afford the membership costs. So it covers a year of membership costs for families who qualify, and follows very similar process as the curriculum grants. So we try to kind of keep it simpler for the families if we can. But basically, Compassion would look at a membership financial aid application, and if it looks like the family's in a place where those membership dues are going to be overly burdensome, then we can help them out with a year of membership, and then they have access to all of HSLDA's resources. There's no partial membership with HSLDA, right? But you're a member, you're a full-blown member, and it's just, again, going back to that finances should not be what stops you from getting the support, the resources, the connections that you need to help your children thrive at home. That's just really near and dear to HSLDA's heart, and that's why Compassion's here. So families can visit hslda.org/MFA, which stands for Membership Financial Aid, if they want to learn more about that program.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. So we want to move to giving a shout out to Mr. Dave. So I know that Diane, I know you've mentioned how much you appreciate Dave's military experience. So want to shout out Dave a little bit?
Absolutely. I stuck this in at the end. Just saying it's really a blessing to have Dave here. You know, we never would have expected someone coming off of 33 years of military experience isn't the typical person looking for a job in a nonprofit sector like this. But I really encourage grant applicants, if you've got a military background, get in touch with us. We'll get you in touch with Dave during the application process. He'll be the one looking at that application, and just let him know if you have any questions. That his experience helping with resourcing families back in the military, he might be able to answer questions or point you towards some good resources. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm happy to put you out there, Dave, as a resource. for our family.
He's used to being on the front line.
Because like you said, homeschooling inside the military. I know there's a lot of military families that homeschool, but it is kind of a niche combination there.
Yeah.
It's a unique. They're both unique worlds, and you put them together, and it's really helpful to have just people in your court.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. Yes. So if any of our viewers have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. We're going to get to them. And if you're watching later the replay, definitely feel free to leave comments or questions. We periodically get back and check through and respond. So feel comfortable doing that. I always want to say we're always thankful for donor support. So please reach out to us if you are led to support this compassion work. If you are listening and you say, I really want to be a part of making homeschooling possible, just definitely reach out to Compassion. And I'm sure that they would love to talk with you and give you the information needed, right? To answer any questions that you have about that. This is a topic we could just keep talking about. There's a lot here, right?
So many stories, so many amazing families.
That's what I'm thinking. So many amazing stories.
Really, various and challenging circumstances, doing a great job for their kids.
Yeah, definitely. And so we thank you so much for all that you do. Diane and Dave, thank you for joining me on this conversation. I hope that the conversation has been encouragement for those who are watching. As military families, military homeschooling families, we face unique challenges, and we can often feel disconnected, maybe forgotten. Here at HSLDA, we're all working, as you've witnessed in the conversation today, we are all working together very hard to develop resources that will help you find connections and encouragement and a helping hand, of course. So I mentioned about our directory. So again, just reach out to me if you have a homeschool support group or co-op that you would love to, list in our directory. We would definitely love to have you. And my email is military@hslda.org. Also, I want to shout out our fantastic legal team that can help. Obviously, HSLDA, the L is legal. So that's our foundation there. So we definitely want you to know that we are available. We have an incredible legal team that you can definitely reach out to as a member. And so if you are not a member, but you want to join, and if you're military, there's a specific link I'll have them put in the chat And you can definitely reach us at hslda.org/military discount. And that link will actually take you directly to access your military discount. And of course, if you're not military, but you're listening and you would like to join, we definitely would love to have you as part of our HSLDA family. And so the link to join for non-members, I believe, was already put into the chat. So I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching the replay later. And again, Diane, Dave, thank you so very much. In February, we're going to be chatting about with two moms about homeschooling with littles at home. So that's going to be a really fun conversation. So if you're listening and you want to join us, we would love for you to actually join us and join in the conversation and share any ideas you have about homeschooling with little ones at home. So we're going to go ahead and end for today. I really appreciate you all joining. Thank you again, Diane and Dave, and have a wonderful day.